Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you another classic film review, and today I'm taking a look at the 1973 sci-fi classic Westworld. The film is written and directed by Michael Crichton, and it stars Yul Brynner, Richard Benjamin, and James Brolin. Now, the film focuses on a futuristic theme park. I mean, the film came out in '73, but I think it's set in 1983, something like that. So it's like a futuristic theme park, and there are like three different zones in this theme park. You've got Roman world, medieval world, and you've got Westworld, which is where much of this film is focused on. And guests pay up to £1,000 a day or $1,000 a day to spend time in either of these parks. If you want to live out your Roman fantasy, you go to Roman world. If you want to live out your medieval fantasy, you go to medieval world. And if you want to live out your Western fantasy, you go to Westworld. Now, there are two guests played by Richard Benjamin and James Brolin that are going to Westworld. Richard Benjamin's character is going for the first time, and James Brolin's character is a bit of a veteran. He's been there a number of times, certainly. Once they get to Westworld, start having a great time. Obviously, the place is filled with robots that will, fulfill your every fantasy. And one of these robots is Yul Brynner's gunslinger, who you can basically take out as a guest. He's like a bad guy for you to take out. But something strange starts happening. The people behind the scenes at Westworld notice that there is more and more breakdowns happening. There's some anomalies taking place within the computers, which leads to a full-on breakdown. They lose control, and the robots turn on the guests and start massacring everybody, which leaves many of the guests fighting for their lives and Richard Benjamin trying to escape a murderous Yul Brynner. Right, what are my thoughts on Westworld? Well, Westworld, there's two like big sci-fi films from the '70s that I used to. I mean, other than the obvious, the Star Wars and things, there's two. There's like Capricorn One and Westworld that I always used to. There were them films that whenever they came on TV, no matter what age I was, if I was a youngster, I would definitely sit and watch them. I remember watching Capricorn One and Westworld a lot with my dad. Westworld I always found quite sinister. I found Yul Brynner's performance to be quite sinister and cold. And interestingly, it's rumoured, I think John Carpenter may have been quoted saying that he based his indestructible Michael Myers character on the Yul Brynner character in Westworld, and similarly Schwarzenegger based much of his Terminator performance on Yul Brynner's performance from Westworld. And those are two great compliments, it has to be said, because Yul Brynner, apparently when he agreed to make this film, was a bit hard up for money, so he kind of agreed to do it for kind of a cut down price because he needed a quick paycheck, and he delivered for what he does in this film, which you could argue isn't a lot. He does brilliantly, and it's a very, very cold and quite unsettling performance from him. There's a moment in the film where he actually smiles. It's almost as if he's relishing, the fact that he's putting this fear into the Richard Benjamin character sort of thing. It's just such a great moment, and there are loads of great moments in this film. Yeah, there are obviously moments in this film that haven't aged brilliantly, but come on, it came out in 1973. I think for the most part, the concept has aged brilliantly, and we know it's aged brilliantly because, unless you've been living under a rock, this was brought back massive success a small amount of years ago when they turned Westworld into the TV show. Now, I think most people would agree that at this point, the first season of Westworld is pretty much, in my opinion, I absolutely loved it. I reviewed the first season of Westworld on this channel, and I thought it was brilliant. Really good how they did the first season of Westworld. I was very happy with it. And then I think it just ran out of ideas from pretty much the second season onwards. I'm sure there are fans out there that may argue that, some of the quality was still there in some of the other seasons, but I lost interest fairly quickly after season 1, but I still have fond memories of the first season of Westworld. I thought it was very, very good indeed. And it's a testament to the quality of this film and the concept of this film, Westworld. It was such a great idea, done particularly well. Now, apparently, Michael Crichton cut quite a lot out of this film. There are some far more brutal scenes, and there may well be. I mean, I do have this on Blu-ray, but I'll be honest, it's I haven't checked out any of the extras, and I don't think there's a great deal of extras on the Blu-ray that I've got. But I would be interested to see a different cut of this, a more violent cut of this, because as effective as it is when the robots turn, you don't necessarily see the full effect of the robots turning, and how, and the brutality of them massacring like the human guests and things like that. It gets the message across, but not necessarily in a brutal way. And maybe they didn't want it to become like, synonymous with violence, or become like a horror film. They wanted to maybe keep it a little bit more family friendly, even though I think this is rated a 15. I might be wrong. But as it stands, it's still massively memorable, in my opinion. And there's quite a few things that this film does that certainly, if memory serves, the computer generated graphics that you see when we're looking from Yul Brynner's perspective as the robot, you see like this pixelated view. That's one of the earliest examples of like computer generated effects sort of thing. And while by today's standards it looks pretty poor, by then I could imagine going to see it at the cinema for the first time, it would have been pretty impressive. And that silver look that the robots have in their eyes when they kind of, and you see it a lot in Yul Brynner's eyes, it just works. You know what I mean? How sinister it kind of looks. It just, there's an awful lot here that works. And for me, if you haven't seen it, obviously, check out Westworld. But for me, one of the best scenes in this film is that scene where Richard Benjamin and James Brolin hungover, walking back, and the robots have kicked off at this point, and they meet Yul Brynner, who's targeting them, and he shoots Josh Brolin dead. I remember being so completely shocked by that the first time I saw it, and then the chase begins, with him trying to fight for his life to escape from the Yul Brynner. It's just really, really good and very, very effective. Also, as well, the Yul Brynner gunslinger character. You may or you may not know, obviously Yul Brynner was in The Magnificent Seven. He played one of the main characters in that, and the costume he wears in this film is very, very similar to the costume he wears in The Magnificent Seven, so I thought that was an interesting thing as well. For me, this film never really ceases to be effective and entertaining. I rewatched it for this review, and it just it's just got it. You know what I mean? I mean, Michael Crichton obviously is more well known, you could argue, as a writer. Obviously, he wrote this, but obviously Jurassic Park as well. He's not, when you think of Michael Crichton, you don't think of him as a director. But it is important to remember that he has directed, in actual fact, some pretty decent stuff. He's not done bad at all, I don't think, as a director, Michael Crichton. I think did he direct Coma as well? I'm sure he did direct Coma. The 13th Warrior as well, which I think is massively underrated. Runaway, with Tom Selleck, I think is pretty good as well. So he's actually done some, pretty decent films as a director. Probably not enough. And he'll always be known as the guy that wrote Jurassic Park, obviously. But if you've never, if you're one of these people that has seen Westworld, the TV show, surely you must have been interested to find out what the 70s film was all about. Well, you need to check it out, because it is very, very good. It still stands up today. And for me, it is a 70s classic. So thank you very much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this review. I will be back with more content on the channel very, very soon.